Global attention is once again turning to the Middle East tonight, as rising tensions involving Iran begin to ripple across international markets and political circles. Oil prices have surged sharply, climbing to their highest level in nearly 6 years and triggering fresh concerns about global energy stability and economic pressure on consumers. At the center of the latest developments is former U.S. President Donald Trump, who made a striking statement about the ongoing conflict. Trump suggested that the war involving Iran could be over pretty quickly, a claim that has immediately drawn attention from analysts, investors, and world leaders watching the situation unfold. Energy markets reacted swiftly, with fears of supply disruptions growing, particularly around key shipping routes in the Persian Gulf. Oil traders pushed prices above levels not seen in years. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow but critical passage through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply travels, has once again become a focal point of global concern. While Trump's comments appeared aimed at calming market fears, many experts remain cautious. Military conflicts in the region have historically had unpredictable consequences, and even small disruptions to oil supply can send shockwaves through global markets. For consumers, the stakes are high. Rising oil prices often translate into higher fuel costs, increased transportation expenses, and potential inflationary pressure across multiple sectors of the economy. So the big question now is this: is the conflict truly close to ending, as Trump suggests, or are global markets bracing for a longer and more complicated crisis? In this report, we'll break down the latest developments surrounding Iran, the reaction from global energy markets, and what these rising oil prices could mean for the world economy in the days ahead. U.S. President Donald Trump said the conflict with Iran could end very soon, and claimed the military campaign is progressing faster than expected. Global oil prices jumped sharply, with Brent crude briefly nearing $120 per barrel, the highest level in several years amid fears of supply disruption. The war has shaken global energy markets, raising concerns about fuel costs, inflation, and economic pressure. Worldwide tensions around the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route for about 20% of the world's oil supply, have intensified fears of supply shortages. After Trump suggested the war could end soon, oil prices and financial markets showed volatility, with prices dropping from earlier peaks. The U.S. administration is exploring options such as easing some sanctions on oil-producing countries and coordinating supply measures to keep prices under contract. Trump warned that if Iran attempts to block oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. would respond with a much stronger military reaction. Despite Trump's optimism, analysts say the conflict could still lead to long-term disruptions in oil supply and global markets if tensions escalate further. Stock markets and commodity markets around the world showed strong volatility as investors reacted to the uncertainty surrounding the Iran conflict. Higher oil prices could lead to increased gasoline and transportation costs, putting financial pressure on households and businesses globally. Energy analysts say governments, including the United States, could consider releasing oil from strategic petroleum reserves to stabilize prices if the crisis continues. U.S. allies in Europe and Asia are closely watching the conflict because many of them depend heavily on Middle Eastern oil supplies. Security experts warn that if tensions grow, the conflict could spread across the Middle East, potentially involving other regional actors. International leaders and organizations are urging diplomatic solutions and de-escalation to prevent further economic and military instability. Former U.S. President Donald Trump claimed the conflict with Iran could be over pretty quickly, suggesting a shorter timeline than many analysts expect. Global crude oil prices surged, reaching levels not seen in years, driven by fears of supply disruption from the Middle East. The Strait of Hormuz, a critical route for 20% of the world's oil shipments, remains a hotspot, with potential blockages creating global energy uncertainty. Stock and commodity markets worldwide showed volatility as investors and nations reacted to both geopolitical risk and potential economic fallout. Higher oil prices are expected to increase fuel costs, transportation expenses, and inflationary pressures globally. While Trump downplayed the duration of the conflict, analysts warn that tensions could escalate further, drawing in other regional actors or prompting stronger military responses. The U.S. and allied nations may explore steps such as releasing strategic oil reserves or diplomatic measures to stabilize energy markets. Despite Trump's assurances, experts caution that the crisis could drag on, leaving oil prices and global markets vulnerable for months. The Trump statement comes amid ongoing conflicts in the region, increasing diplomatic and military uncertainty. Financial markets are reacting not only to oil prices, but also to fear of broader instability affecting global investments. Discussions are underway about modifying sanctions on Iran or other oil-producing countries to ease market pressure. Countries heavily dependent on imported oil, like India and Turkey, could face sharper inflation due to price surges. Rising fuel costs are expected to directly impact airline ticket prices and shipping costs worldwide. Oil producers see short-term gains, but uncertainty could hurt long-term investment planning. Previous U.S.-Iran tensions have caused oil spikes, showing a recurring pattern when regional conflicts flare. Trump's comments have sparked widespread discussion online, with both supporters and critics analyzing his quick-end claim. U.S. and allied forces are reportedly reviewing deployments in the Gulf region as a precautionary measure. Even minor disruptions in oil supply could affect shipping costs, manufacturing, and global supply chains beyond the energy sector. Iran vows to keep oil blockade until attacks stop. Iran's Revolutionary Guard say they will not allow any oil shipments out of the region until Western attacks end, escalating energy supply risks. Global markets fell, then rebounded. Asian and European stock markets showed volatility, falling when oil surged, then rallying after Trump's comments about a swift end. U.S. dollar steadies after Trump remarks. The dollar strengthened against major currencies as markets reacted to the potential easing of conflict tensions. Consideration of sanction relief. Trump is reportedly weighing easing some sanctions on oil producers to help lower global oil prices. Energy infrastructure under attack. Iran's war and related strikes have disrupted key oil and gas facilities across the Gulf, threatening longer-term supply. Saudi Aramco warns of catastrophic impact. The CEO of Saudi Aramco cautions that prolonged disruption in the Strait of Hormuz could be disastrous for global oil markets. Rising civilian casualties highlight human cost. Independent monitoring groups report significant loss of civilian lives in Iran since the conflict intensified. War could push oil into record territory. Analysts predict that if the Strait of Hormuz disruption continues, oil could rise well above current levels. Supply cutbacks from major exporters. Countries such as Iraq, UAE, and Kuwait have already reduced shipments due to storage issues and tanker traffic halts. Energy inflation risk. Growing economists warn that sustained high oil prices could feed into broad inflation, affecting fuel, transport, and consumer goods. Gas prices and LNG supply also affected not only oil but liquefied natural gas. LNG prices and shipments have been hit, raising costs in Europe and Asia. Shipping traffic nearly halted in Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, normally busy with oil tankers, has seen drastic reductions in commercial traffic. War effects similar to past global shocks. Some analysts compare the impact on energy markets to periods after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Conflict sparks supply chain strain beyond fuel. Disruptions threaten broader supply chains that depend on stable oil and gas flows. Investors reassessing risk appetite. Market sentiment is shifting as traders weigh the potential duration of the conflict and its economic fallout. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, is keeping a close eye on supply disruptions and may adjust production quotas if the conflict escalates. Shipping companies are paying higher premiums for tankers passing through the Persian Gulf due to security risks. Rising oil prices are sparking renewed debates about the need to accelerate renewable energy adoption worldwide. U.S. and regional allies are reportedly considering urgent talks with Iran to prevent further escalation. Even if the war ends quickly, oil prices may remain volatile due to geopolitical uncertainty and market speculation. Trump's comments about a quick end have drawn global attention, highlighting how political statements can sway markets and public sentiment. That's all for today's coverage on the Iran conflict and the latest oil market updates. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breaking news update. We'll keep you updated as the situation develops, so stay tuned and stay informed.